Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us again on Tapped In with Lissy Lou. I've got here with us today Alison. She has been my mentor for EFT Tapping. I'm working on my accreditation. She is a founder of HappiSoul.com and has over 34 years of experience supporting individuals through emotional and physical challenges. With a background in community and hospital case management, she is passionate about helping people reconnect with their true essence, pure love. Using EFT tapping, matrix reimprinting, and sound healing, she guides clients in releasing limiting patterns and trauma to create a more abundant life. And with that, I would like to introduce you guys to Alison. Thank you, Alison, for joining us today.
Hello, Alyssa. Lovely to be here. And thank you for this great opportunity to share my passion. Yeah, I'm just really excited, actually. Thank you.
Yay. Yeah. I've known Alison for a number of years and I'm really excited to have her as my mentor. She's taught me so much about EFT tapping. And if anyone's not aware, EFT stands for Emotional Frequency Technique. Tapping is its short form. And Alison has helped me tremendously to help me heal chronic pain that I had in my body for almost 8 years. And I'm just so excited to have her here with us today so she can share with us a bit more about what tapping's all about.
Thank you. Yes. So maybe if we just start with the real basics. So why do we even use this tool called tapping? And I know some of your viewers know about it, but ultimately we're tapping on end meridian points whilst we're focusing on something that feels uncomfortable, whether it's pain, whether it's a belief, whether it's an emotion, whether it's a situation, a craving, or any, it can be literally anything, can't it, Alyssa? This is why we love tapping, because it's so highly effective. But ultimately, we're using this tool because we don't feel ourselves. And I think when I really pull it right back is, why do we use tapping? Because we feel out of alignment and we just feel like we're not good enough. We feel in pain physically. We've maybe got these cravings. We're not where we want to be in life. And something just feels weird and off. And that's often how I use tapping, is because I just feel like a bit anxious. I've just moved to the UK for a period of time before I returned to Australia. And it was the most amazing amount of stress because I had to leave my 18-year-old son. He didn't want to come. And I was grieving him and I was anxious what he was going to eat. And so I was just doing this tapping process every day, just a little bit. But sometimes when I did it, I had an amazing shift and I was lots of tears and crying. But why again was I doing it? It was because I didn't feel like I was in my power. I didn't feel like I was having a joyful time at that time. It was like, it was all a bit bleak. It's like, I don't want to go. This is feeling wrong. And the truth is, that was stress. That was all stress. And so I was constricted. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't myself. So and this is what I get more and more passionate about tapping. It's just a tool, and it's an amazing tool to let go of stress a little bit more quickly than just perhaps breathing or yoga, because we're having our voice and we're voicing out what's going on. And when we let go of stress, we're back to our core, we're back to love, we're back to our power, we're back to the resonance of the earth and nature. And I know you know all this, Alyssa, because you're very similar to.
Yes.
And we keep it simple. And that's what I love about when I teach tapping, and I'm obviously mentoring you, which is an honor, is
Thank
we
you.
we can, yeah, we can, when we keep it really quite simple and apply the tapping procedure, we can have really good shifts. What we do need to be mindful of is if there's trauma and lots of and post-traumatic stress, for example, or even just very intense emotions, we should always work with a practitioner, because that's where you're being held really safely. And I, for example, would be guiding you on, what's this pain about? How do you feel about the pain? Where did it originate? What was the trauma around the diagnosis? And all of that stuff. You can't do that often on your own. So again, bringing it back, EFT is the tool that helped me get out of a real funk. I was in one of those loops, like a little mouse on that wheel. And I was living in Australia, where I will return to, and I just wasn't happy. And I tried everything. I tried so many modalities, and they had worked. But when I came across tapping, which was originally called thought field therapy, which is very complicated, and Gary Craig, who's one of my mentors, simplified it. I went to I went to a workshop, and straight away I was like, oh, this is a game changer. This is amazing. And at the time, I was working in the hospital system as a case manager, very stressful job working with people. Wasn't so much the clients, it was the system as well. But I realized that I could actually feel better quickly. And I then also continued on and became accredited and eventually became a master trainer as well in tapping. But on that journey, I realized this is something I wanted to share in the world, not just to keep to myself. So I eventually left my job, was kind of bullied out of it, which is a good thing in the end because it forced me to leave. And I think a lot of your viewers may relate to being in a job where they just, your head keeps banging against a wall and you're like, I can't leave. I can't do this. I can't do, well, how will I finance myself? How will I, blah, 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 blah.
Yes, I can relate to that
Yes,
with
and it's
teaching. Yep.
scary. It's very scary, isn't it? It was a professional
Yes.
job. It was like a steady income, but I was so not happy. And so I got all my qualifications so that I could really embrace it and bring it into the world as we know today. Um, and yeah, it's just consistently helps me nearly, not every day would I do it, but I do a lot of tapping on myself and I do group work and I, of course, teach and you will be accredited. You'll be an accredited practitioner, which is amazing that we're really getting it out there in the world as a professional certification so that people feel safe in our hands with any issue, really. But yeah, I think I might pause there because there's a lot that I said. I don't know if you have any questions you want to ask or.
Oh, well, I love how you're doing a great job explaining it and how it's helped change your life and you are helping change many people's lives. I know that for certain because you've been doing this so long. And just like what you said when you first resonated with EFT, I did too when first working with you. And when I saw how it benefited and changed my life and such a beautiful, holistic, natural technique,
Mm.
uh, I just couldn't help but think, okay, I need to help people as well. And it is slowly being introduced into the education system over here in Australia.
Mm.
Yeah, there could come a time where I could use it in the classroom or even just one on one with a student who's having anxiety issues, or especially when it comes to HSC, or
Yes.
even this is the start of the school year. But I'm curious. So, yeah, with back to your journey,
Mm.
and I'm the same. I use it almost on a daily basis. Like, I've incorporated it with my daily qigong practice. I'll
Yeah.
include tapping and even just working with my own volunteers. I would say the number one thing I find is how much it calms us down. It makes us feel so much calmer and relaxed. Um, and I love it. It's a simple technique, and we all have such stressful lives to have such a beautiful technique. So, are you happy to share with us? And even during some part of this podcast, even a simple demonstration.
Mm.
Um, but because I like to use it at the start of every podcast that I do, just a quick 5 minute
Yeah.
tap to help with the nerves because
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
natural.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I use it, as I say, fairly regularly. Not every day. I don't want to become reliant, like shouldn't become reliant on anything really, should we? But I incorporate it also. And it's interesting hearing you say you do it with Qigong as well. And I've just started to do Tai Chi. And we talked earlier before we hit record, didn't we, about other things that we do to help us in our daily routine. And more, my go-tos are nature and being still. So sometimes, of course, just being still is really difficult because you've got so much overwhelm. And that's when I might think I'll just do a quick tap and we'll illustrate doing a quick tap in a moment. And that's where I find it really, really helpful for me because it can be in moments where I've got to show up and do something like you just before natural nerves when you don't know what's going to happen. You're kind of excited because nerves are also a vibration of excitement as well. Um, so I tend to use it throughout my day for various different things. But yeah, the way I set up my day to help me be the best I can be, and this is one of the most important factors. It's not actually tapping, it's just to take that moment when I wake up to just breathe and be conscious that I'm here. And it sounds the most obvious thing to the viewers, but how many of us just don't do that? We get up, we maybe go for the phone, we go immediately into, oh, I've got to check this, and I'm nearly 57, and it's taken me all this time to realize the importance of, I don't call it meditation, I just call it moments of stillness, where I just close my eyes literally. I mean, I'm in the morning, yes, my eyes are closed, but I might open them and go, okay, I'm just before I go into do mode, I take that moment to just recognize I'm in this body. I'm a vibrational being, I'm a spiritual being, but I'm having this amazing body as a vessel to show up every day with hopefully a bit more love for myself and to give the world. And so that is my go-to throughout the day now. I do 5 seconds, 30 seconds of literally just closing my eyes. And maybe just for 5 seconds, I'll invite you to just close your eyes.
Mm.
Just breathe softly like a baby. And that's just literally 5 seconds. And actually, for a lot of people, that's quite uncomfortable. And so I invite
Mm.
people to just practice that when you arrive somewhere, you pause, close the eyes, stop all the distractions and just go within and just not trying to ask you questions. How am I feeling? What's going on for me right now? It's none of the dialogue. It's literally just being with your breath and your body. I'm finding that one of the hugest transformations for me, probably alongside all the tapping I've done to let go of the big stuff, but as a maintenance routine, sort of what do I do to keep in alignment? That's definitely something that has to happen, Alyssa, because if I just tapped all day and yes, I'm feeling calmer because I'm less stressed and I have more clarity and showing up the true me, I just really enjoy the quietness. And it might be on a nature walk where I just stop and close my eyes, or when you're in a busy mall and it's really overwhelming and somebody sensitive like you and me, we're empaths, we get sensitive. It's all too much. And sometimes you have to do things that you don't like. So you can just close your eyes and, just be still. Or you can do the quick tap. So should we do a quick tap?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Alison.
So it's really like mixing it up, isn't it? But so we did a little tap before, which you invited us to do, which was really good, just to acknowledge the nerves, didn't we? But perhaps because a lot of people can also relate to tension in the body. So it's really, really good for, again, acknowledging any tightness and tension. So what we're doing here with tapping, remember, is we are acknowledging the stress. So when you're tense and tight or in pain, of course, there's an additional stressor to just the physical pain. It's I'm stressed. What's going on? Is this ever going to go away? Am I going to get better? I particularly enjoy working with people who've had chronic health issues because I could talk a little bit later about mine and how that's resolved. Because I'll say this quickly that when we've got any chronic pain, and you'll remember this, we need to deal with how do we feel about the pain. We need to deal with all the aspects around when did it happen? Is there any trauma around the actual pain? Is there a memory of being diagnosed with a serious disease that you're really stressed about? That all inhibits the body to go, I'm safe. Yes, I might have a broken arm, but I'm going to be okay. That's going to come off one day, or it might be fibromyalgia. And it's like, how am I ever going to get through this? I feel terrible every day. There's a belief there, isn't there? So we work through the belief is I'm never going to get better. Who told you that? The doctor told me that. So there's so many exciting pieces to our issues that with tapping, we can zoom in on each one. And sometimes we don't have to go to each one. You know this, you're learning about
Yes.
being a practitioner. We just go with the significant ones that are coming up and everything else starts to dissolve. And then it's like, oh, my shoulders are dropped. The pain's gone. How's that possible? The physio or so-and-so said that'll never go away. It was because you were stressed about it. So we need to
Mm.
deal with the stress and the trauma. So why don't we let's just notice maybe you are feeling really calm and it might be something else, but we'll just do a few minutes.
Mhm.
And the quick tap is really, really good for just acknowledging, obviously, quickly, because that's what we're saying. When you haven't got much time and it's not a big deal, it's not anything really traumatic, but it actually might be that you're having a panic attack, or it might be that you've got suddenly acute anxiety and you can you can go to the toilet and have some privacy. You can get in your car and do it, or if you're driving and you're triggered, you pull over and you do it. You can do it while you're walking. There's so many opportunities. So some key things that I'd like to share before we do our quick tap, and I'll ask you a question just to work out what we're going to do it on, is that we really want to make sure that it's, as I say, that it's not anything really big, and we want to make sure that we're in a safe place. So just for a moment, let's just take the time to just recognize what we're doing. We're going to do what's called the quick tap. The quick tap ultimately means we're not going to do a side of the hand setup statement, because often we don't have time, and we just get worried about, what am I going to say? Alison says this or Alyssa says that, and I don't know what to say. We don't even do the setup. We literally just ask ourselves, how am I feeling? I'm anxious. Okay. All this anxiety. I feel really anxious. I'm just illustrating like this, perhaps it'd be quite, and then we'll do a tap. And then we can ask ourselves, where do I feel it in the body? So it's just two questions, really. How am I feeling? Where's it in the body? They'll keep it really simple at the beginning. So it would be something like, I'm so anxious. I'm feeling it all in my chest. All this anxiety is stuck in my chest. And we go around the points, just saying the emotion. We name the emotion. Perhaps we finish at the rib point and we take a breath. The emotion is linked often to a physical sensation, so we can do a round of this tightness in my chest. I'm feeling anxious. We can alternate. We don't overcomplicate with loads of other words. This is where I see that that's where it can dilute it and people get confused. I'm feeling really anxious. It's sitting in my chest. All this anxiety. I'm feeling really anxious. What I like to do, Alyssa, is on the collarbone, I might just say a little bit about why I'm anxious. Not a lot, because we don't want to traumatize ourselves or get ourselves overwhelmed. I'm so anxious, I'm about to go into the dentist. This anxiety in my chest, feeling really anxious. I'm going into the dentist. I feel really anxious. So this is like a couple of minutes. Perhaps we do it down to here. We breathe in again. We breathe out. We've only got 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes. So we want to bring in a bit of a reframe. We don't normally do that, do we, when we're doing a big round? We want to bring SUDS. SUDS are ratings out of 10 down to about a 3 before we introduce a positive. But here, we've not got much time. So we want to just start reframing. We're doing it on ourselves. That's fine. You might be helping somebody else. So we might say something like, back to the top of the head, I'm going to be okay. Eyebrow, it's safe for me to be calm. Side of the eye, I've done this before. Under the eye, I'm in safe hands. I choose to let this go. It's okay for me to move forward. It's going to be all right. Now, this is where some people, the thoughts may come in, but it wasn't all right last time at the dentist. And that's where we go and see somebody and we go, let's work on that memory of when it didn't go well, or, at the dentist. But for the quick tap, we generally just focus in on, how am I feeling? Where am I feeling it in the body? If we've got enough time on the collarbone, we might just say a little bit about why we feel that way. Yeah, does that make sense? And so we're doing a
Oh, yeah,
few
it's
times
great.
to acknowledge how we feel, and then we can do 2 or 3 rounds on, it's okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm good enough. I can do this. I got this, whatever the issue may be. I hope that makes it clear for the viewers that we don't overcomplicate it. Simple. How do I feel? Where do I feel it in my body? What is the emotion? Let's isolate that. Anxiety, anger, stress, worry. Where do I feel it in my body? Most people do feel it in the body, and they'll notice it dissipates and goes. And if there is time, a little bit about what you're anxious about. And I often say that a bit on the collarbone. And then within 2, 3 minutes, as you and I know, the nervous system, which is the key thing here with the physical body, is soothed. And we're sending consistently a soothing message to the amygdala, the mid part of the brain, which goes into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is I'll do anything for you. And it's sort of like, or it can be a chronic tiredness response. We are acknowledging this amygdala's on fire because it's feeling under threat, but really the threat is not that bad often. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Alison. That was amazing. I loved that. And I loved how you used an example that's pretty common for most people.
Yeah.
We all get a bit nervous
Yeah.
about going to the
Yeah.
dentist. I know my son really does, and
Mm.
something we all have to do one
Yeah.
day. And and that's the thing, like tapping can be used for anything that sends us into a little bit of overwhelm.
Yeah.
And one of my goals this year is to beat my sugar addiction.
Ah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm hoping to well, I will use EFT tapping to help me break that habit.
Yeah.
And I'll be
Great.
documenting that as I go through that this year.
Yeah, that's really,
Um,
really going to be good for people. A lot of people. That would be really great for your viewers because that's a really common one. One I've done tapping for is caffeine, coffee. And sometimes
yes.
I have to do a bit of tapping because I might find that I've drunk, I'm drinking 2 cups of coffee instead of one, and I feel a bit adrenalized, and it's so helpful, isn't it, for that? But you need to be persistent, as you and I know, with any craving that's been long standing. Doing your quick taps and doing your daily taps will help, but getting underneath why have I even got this craving is the key when you're a practitioner, is to help somebody establish what that's all really about.
Yes. So, Alison, are you happy to share with us some of your most memorable experiences that you've helped people with? Because I know just from my 6 months of apprenticeship, I've had some major wins myself, helping a friend with her spider phobia,
Oh,
helping a
great.
friend with
Mm,
eye pain. And it's
mm.
just been so beautiful to witness that, something that people have had trouble with most their lives. And then something so simple as 1, 2, 3 sessions and it's cleared.
Yes, yes. Yeah, oh gosh, now you've put me on the spot because I suppose I've been doing this for like, well, I don't know now, 15 years or 16 years, and it's really lovely because when I reflect, there's a lot of really exciting things that have happened in sessions. But one thing I would like to share, which I feel is very dear to my heart, is working with people actually who have had a diagnosis of something really quite chronic. And this is quite it's a deep um topic, if you like, for your viewers, but it's real. Some people get this diagnosis and they're very shocked. And what I really, maybe because of my background with mental health and disability, and also witnessing some people actually um facing the end of their life, maybe prematurely or maybe not prematurely. And what I've found really, really heartwarming is helping people, in particular this young lady who was really struggling because of her mother who passed away, and she had cancer, and so helping her deal with the loss and the grief and the trauma of witnessing somebody appearing to suffer towards the end was such an honor for me to be able to help somebody through that process, where often we're sort of left there with like grief and shock and distress and then anger about somebody being taken too soon. But I worked with this lady for several sessions because she'd already been a client of mine with chronic health issues. So we've been tapping through all the belief structures about her health issues and all the cravings to do with all the eating habits that were contributing to her gut issues. So that was one element of my working with her, which was really, really great to get her on track with eating better, and stress related to the gut issues, helping the microbiome. Of course, we know that stress is a major contributor, but then working on more deeply with her about part of that was she hadn't dealt with the loss of her mother in such a traumatic way. So being able to do some sessions on all the images, because remembering we work on images and movies in our mind all the time. So we're constantly going to the past in an image, or we're going to the future about the dentist, and it actually might never be that bad. So for her, she was stuck in this loop of, I can't get over this, because to see my mother like that, and also it was on Zoom, she couldn't actually be with her. So there was all the guilt about not being there. So we worked through all these layers, session by session. It wasn't a quick fix, it was several sessions to see her unravel and have peace and to connect with her mother spiritually now, instead of feeling like she'd lost her mum. She's actually gained a new relationship, which was the spiritual realm of being with her mum. So I think as
Beautiful.
I organically talk now, it's like that's one that stands out. And then I really, and again, it's a similar theme. It's because it's a little bit of my bag of helping people with trauma. Um, is a gentleman, and it was a sad story, but it was also really beautiful. And he was a dentist, actually. He's a dentist. Came to me because he'd had the diagnosis of having lung cancer. And he was very, very, and this is a lesson for all of us. I assumed he was going to come to me with X, Y, and Z issues, as in anxiety and fear about being faced potentially with an early passing. And it wasn't. It was actually about anger. And he was actually angry with himself for working so hard as a dentist that he realized it contributed probably to his disease process. So that was a surprise. I thought it was going to be something entirely different. Of course, I show up and I'm with somebody there and then. So we worked through all the anger. And then, of course, it was grief about possibly leaving his family. And then it was all the symptoms that were coming up, the coughing. And it was extraordinary, Alyssa, because we were tapping and all this coughing was happening because he's got, tumors in his lungs. And at the end of the sessions, he wasn't coughing. Doesn't mean that the cancer disappears, but the stress meant he was really like, oh my, I can't believe it. I'm normally coughing all the time. So the instant calibration of his body to be more at ease it's like a miracle, isn't it? When somebody just and then he was like, I'm feeling a bit more peaceful. I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel I'm stronger to be able to go through the chemo as well. So I help people with the fear of taking the chemo. I'm working with a lady at the moment who's had a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. So we're working well together on all that. You can imagine there's so many things. And so I know this is maybe a bit deep for your viewers, but I feel it's a really important factor that we don't talk about death, we don't talk about disease. And I'm really in a very special position that I can help people because some people don't make it, Alyssa, they do pass away. But I feel passionate that I've been able to help them be more at peace and less fearful of the end process of life. So I know that that's big, but I do work a lot in this field, and I've also had my chronic health issues, which I've healed, and I just feel very passionate about that. And I could rattle off so many other case studies to you, but really, those two are kind of linked, and
Yes.
that because I do work in the trauma sphere, I tend to have quite big things going on, but I had these messages from his friend when he eventually passed to say what a difference it made to his process. And I still feel a bit teary about that because he's such a gorgeous man. And none of us know what's going to happen to us, but as long as we can let go of the stress around what's happening, sometimes we can't change the facts. Tapping doesn't mean that I can save lives as such, but I can help people with something that they think, I'm never going to be able to accept that. We don't have to agree with it, but we do need to accept. And that's part of the tapping protocol is let's just accept that this is happening. We don't have to say it's okay, though. It's a big distinction there, isn't there?
No, thank you, Alison. I actually relate to this very deeply. My family, we lost my brother 7 years ago to colon cancer. So I wish I knew about these techniques back
Yeah.
then to, possibly have helped relieve some of his stress around what he was going through, chemo, radiation, and
Yes.
yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And I think,
Yeah.
most people know someone sadly nowadays
Yeah.
who are going
Yeah.
through cancer and
Yes.
yes, thank you.
Yes, and I think it sadly is on the rise for many different reasons. So if we can help people in this process, some people by dealing with their stress will actually heal from the cancer. So there are miracles that happen as we know. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So thanks for the opportunity for sharing that. Yeah, because there's hope,
Yeah.
always hope when we're in the right hands, when we've got the right support.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I agree with you. And I would love to hear if you're happy to share about your story about how tapping helped with your chronic pain.
Yes, absolutely. So just backtracking a little bit, because when I was very, very ill with rheumatoid arthritis when I was about 17, I didn't know about tapping. And it came on very suddenly. I did fairly quickly start to ask myself what's contributing to this. And I ended up doing acupuncture, which was the seed really for me to do tapping because it's meridians. And it's really interesting because I realized that the arthritis, the inflammation, the immune issue ultimately was because I wasn't accepting myself. I was rejecting myself. I was not really, and again, a lot of viewers will relate to this. Autoimmune is often this rejection of yourself. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy to speak up. I don't really belong here. I'm sort of like comparing myself all the time. I was definitely doing that at that age. But unfortunately, I didn't know any better. Neither did my mum. We had a lot of medications, which upset my stomach badly. I think it kind of sort of ruined the lining of my stomach for quite a long time. But then moving forward, so I didn't know about tapping then, but I started to see the correlation even then about the mind-body connection. So I was very aware of what I was eating, what I was thinking. But I was also 17, so I was going to the pub. I was kind of wrecking myself a bit as well. Um, and then moving forward, I came to Australia when I was 23. I'm nearly 57 now, so that's a long time ago. And I started to actually feel better just by being in a different environment, but there was still a lot of issues. And later I realized, this is really interesting. Again, your viewers may relate. I began my gut got really, really bad. And I didn't realize the importance of actually what I didn't do again was really think about what was right for me and actually recognize I don't think this environment's right. So I was living in a lot of places in Sydney, Australia, which were very damp and had lots of mold. And mold is can be deadly. I used to see the mold on the wall, and instead of going, I don't want to be in this environment, I'm too precious, I'd just wipe it off. It'd be all over my leather and my jewelry every winter. I'd open the cupboard, it was there. I didn't know the how bad it was. And I didn't say to myself, this is not good for me. I just like poo-pooed me, kind of like, oh, I'll be all right. I was breathing in these spores for years when I was in these different homes. So it was also linked with, I realized I had mercury poisoning. So I went through a whole process of healing that. And that is when I did know about tapping. So tapping had been, so I was starting to use tapping on all the stress around not getting better, because again, when people are not well mentally, physically, spiritually, there's a belief of I'm never going to get better. So I saw practitioners to get the right help, to be held, and that helped me with all the restrictions I had to put on myself, diet-wise, the sugar, the caffeine, and all these annoyances and angers. I don't want to, but you have to because you need to put your body in a good space. So there was again tapping to help with all the emotions around getting well. And yeah, I'd have to say, that's all behind me. I don't have any inflammation markers. My gut is really good now. I'm not saying that I've given up on or I don't do any healing. I do. We're all evolving. The vibration is shifting all the time and things come in and I know, okay, there's another layer. But I'm not despondent now. I'm like, okay, there's another layer. There's something going on with my liver. What can I do? Okay, I can do this. And so I think right now I just feel so incredibly blessed that I've been on this journey to get me to where I am, to know about chronic health conditions and what we can do to support ourselves. And it's so important. We can't just tap, can we? We have to eat really good food. We have to watch our self-talk and what we're saying to ourselves. We have to take those moments of stillness and connect. So important. Like
Yes.
this, you and I connecting, we're talking, it's a real conversation. We're just showing up and going, yeah, okay, let's talk about it.
Yes, I relate to that deeply. I truly believe our mind, heart, and gut, there's that, relationship.
Yeah,
And if one's out of whack, it affects everything.
yeah,
And when we were doing our baby breath, our moment of silence,
yeah,
it reminded me also with the heart coherence of, breathing the love through our
yeah.
heart with our breath, breathing it in and then breathing it out. And just how beautiful and powerful and simple that is, just like tapping.
I know. Yeah,
And
no, wonderful. It's amazing. Should
amazing.
we do that little quick tap?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we do the quick tap. So I'm going to ask you to just close your eyes for a moment and tune in. And just maybe you're feeling really good actually because we're having a good conversation, but there's
Mm.
possibly something coming up in the future, or you may even just feel a bit tight somewhere in your body, something that you're not at peace with right now, whether it's tension, pain, or a little niggly thought you have about something coming up. Would you like to share with me in your own time if there's something that you're slightly struggling with? It's not really big, but it's something that's you're slightly not at peace with, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually. What's happening?
Yes. I've had a little bit of pain in my lower back lately, the last 4 days.
Can you feel it now?
If I were to get up and move, yes.
So maybe just get up and move gently and
Okay.
safely. Notice out of 10 how uncomfortable it is.
Okay. Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
As I would, mm, I would say it's at least a 5.
It's a 5. And
Yeah.
what kind of pain when because obviously that inhibits you when you're walking, does it? Or because you wouldn't normally just wiggle to get the pain, but how does it affect you? How is it
Yeah.
affecting you?
So I feel pretty stiff.
Yes.
Um,
Stiff. Yeah.
yeah, and like I haven't been to the gym the last 4 or 5 days. Um,
Okay. Now let's keep it simple
yeah.
because I'm just remembering we're
Okay.
doing a quick tap. So if this was
Yeah.
you doing it to yourself, I'm going to guide you. We'd
Mm,
keep it really simple, wouldn't we? And obviously you
yeah.
haven't got pain until you move into that position, but let's just give it a
Mm,
go. So we're
okay,
just going to
thanks.
say top of the head, this stiffness in my lower back,
This stiffness in my lower back.
eyebrow point. How does it make you feel, Alyssa? Do you feel
Uh,
frustrated or what do you feel when you get
Yeah,
this?
I'm frustrated because it's
Let's,
keeping me
let's
from
stay
the
with that.
gym.
This
Yeah,
frustration,
this frustration,
side of the eye, this stiffness in my lower back,
this stiffness in my lower back.
under the eye, frustrated with myself,
Frustrated with myself.
under the nose. I haven't been to the gym,
I haven't been to the gym.
under the bottom lip, this stiffness in my lower back,
This stiffness in my lower back.
collarbone. It's frustrating and I haven't been to the gym,
It's frustrating and I haven't been to the gym.
under the arm. I feel frustrated,
I feel frustrated.
tapping the ribs, and I have this stiffness in my lower back.
I have this stiffness in my lower back.
Take a breath in and release and just move your body again. Maybe when you sat in the chair, I don't know if you can access it then or if you have to stand
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Mm.
I can feel it when I'm sitting, but I'll go back to how I was standing. Yeah. Like if I were to bend over. Oh, yeah, I'm not happy when I bend over.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have you
Mm,
stand up. Stay stood
okay.
up.
Yep.
We'll just focus your camera because sometimes we just need to, don't hurt yourself, but be in that position. And we'll go top of the head.
Mhm.
This stiffness is still there.
The stiffness is still there.
Eyebrow point. I feel really stiff in my lower back,
I feel really stiff in my lower back.
side of the eye. It's not happy when I'm leaned forward,
It's not happy when I lean forward.
under the eye. I'm feeling stiff right now,
I'm feeling stiff right now.
under the nose. I wonder what it is. Wonder
I
what this is
wonder what it
about,
is. Yeah, what's this about?
under the bottom lip. I wonder what I'm feeling stuck about.
I wonder what I'm feeling stuck about.
Collarbone. Stay on the collarbone. Is there anything you feel stiff about, like stuck with?
Um, I guess I was frustrated getting out my last podcast because we were without electricity for four
Yeah,
days from a storm.
yeah, okay. Under the arm. Maybe it's about this.
Yeah, maybe it's about this.
Tapping the ribs. I'm acknowledging it could be about this.
I'm acknowledging that it could be about this.
Top of the head. This stiffness at not moving on from this.
This stiffness from not moving on.
Eyebrow point. Can we say I'm open to moving forward now?
Oh, yes, I'm open to moving forward now.
Side of the eye. It's over.
Over.
Under the eye. I had a techie issue before this
Mm,
podcast.
yeah, I had a tech issue before this podcast,
Under the nose, but I handled it really well.
but I handled it really well.
Under the bottom lip. This remaining stiffness in my lower back,
This remaining stiffness in my lower back
collarbone, and this frustration with techie issues.
and this frustration with techie issues.
Under the arm. I choose to let it go now.
I choose to let it go now.
And the ribs. I choose to be at peace in my body.
I choose to be at peace in my body.
We might just take a nice big breath in and a
Mm.
stretch and then test out gently if anything's changing, even if it's emotional and your lower back and the stiffness. Go slowly bending forward and notice if there's any more movement or if it's the same.
I'd say it's the same, but I've something that was great that you said is the frustration linked around it. I never thought to think it could be I did have major frustration
Yes.
with not having power or
Yeah.
electricity for 4 days. That
Yes.
yeah, wow.
And when you think now about how frustrated do you feel right now? You said I've not been to the gym. Is that dropped down a bit or is that the same?
Definitely like I was being hard on myself, like by not getting there, just and now I'm just like, you know what? I just need to be kinder to myself, loving
Yeah.
kindness to myself. Yeah, like
Oh, that's great.
that is huge, right? We forget.
Yeah, we do. And there's a lovely insight. We didn't talk about insights, did we? You get the insights when you tap and let go of stress that you couldn't see before at all. Like the dentist, it's like, maybe I remember they're really lovely. This dentist is a really nice woman. She's lovely. It's going to be okay. So I'm really glad, even though the stiffness feels like it's about the same, sometimes what happens is when we shift the emotion, it might not be immediate, but you might realize in a few hours or a few minutes that when you test it out again, because the calibration can take anywhere from immediate up to 2 weeks, you
Mm,
realize because it's linked with a story, and yes, the physiological's there, but we remember we're reducing stress with tapping, that actually, oh, I realize I can bend forward with a bit more ease. And actually, I do feel like I've got peace with that issue because that's gone now. I've learned from that. And also, of course, you can, if you've got time after the podcast, just do another quick tap because I want to empower people
definitely.
to do it for themselves so that you're not always having to have somebody with you. And so remember
Yes.
what we did, just to recap, we did acknowledge the stiffness. And then we were saying things like this frustration. And we kept acknowledging the problem, all this stiffness in the lower back, this frustration not going to the gym is what you said, and this
Mm,
remaining stiffness. And then we got you to breathe in and out. You can breathe in and out at any time just to let go. And then I asked you also about where you feel stuck or stiff. And that's where we might be able to ask ourselves, or a practitioner or somebody else will, because there's a metaphor there also, isn't there? This is where the NLP kind of element comes into tapping. It's like, what does this remind you of, or where do you feel stuck or stiff? And that's a whole other little tapping exercise you could do.
I love that. And Alison, can you just clarify for our listeners what NLP is or stands for?
Neuro linguistic programming. So it's really about reframing and the importance of the power of words, and also the connection really between words. And so, for example, in my understanding, I might not have this completely right. Somebody on the viewers probably could correct me, but we're talking about the brain, the neuro, and we're talking about language, and we're talking about programming. So we're very easily influenced by words, and so when we say the word stiff and um, what was the other word? Stuck. There's a real connection in the brain to, okay, yep, that's that. But what we can go further with that is, where else do you feel stuck in your life? Where else do you feel stuck?
Mm,
So it becomes like a
yes.
metaphor as well. So I really love that when we can go on that dance with EFT, and it can be also quite free flowing, and it's not necessarily really heavy, perhaps it's more these insights keep popping in and we're like, well, who's a pain in the neck? Well, I've got this pain in my neck, I've had it for 10 years. Who's a pain in the neck? Oh, it's my brother-in-law, or it's the teacher at school. And then we can go on a bit of a journey on that's an aspect. And I'd just like to say, actually, because we could talk for hours, couldn't we? Something that might
Yes.
be really interesting for your viewers is, I always like to refer to the metaphor of the tabletop analogy. It's an analogy, actually. So I have clients come to me, or if I'm doing group work, and we say, okay, what's the presenting issue? And so we pop it on the table. I don't feel good enough. That's global, isn't it? That's like, okay, this is
Yes.
my issue. I don't feel good enough. So the way we, I suppose, collapse the problem is to remove the legs that are holding up the problem. And the legs are different aspects to, why don't I feel good enough? So give me an example of recently when you didn't feel good enough. Oh, nobody was listening to me. I was talking, no one was listening to me. That's one of the legs. And so we can do a whole tapping session on that memory, because we're working in memories and movies. And we use a technique called the movie technique, which you will know about, which is processing all the triggers you have in that memory of, then nobody listened to me. Nobody listened to me. And we dissolve that. And they're like, actually, I am worthy of being heard. They were just being silly kids. They didn't mean to be mean. We're dissolving part of the problem of why I'm not feeling good enough. And then another aspect, I'll ask you, Alyssa, what do you think another
Mm.
aspect could be to why I don't feel good enough? So we've got the issue on the
Oh,
table. What will be one of the other legs? What will be another aspect?
oh wow. Yeah, negative self-talk.
Mm.
That's a big one.
There you go, a belief, a strong belief.
Mm,
But then we could go down that. Who told you that you weren't good enough? Or my sisters or my mum, I was always the nuisance, or I was always deemed to be a bit silly, or, nobody in my family really got me. So that self-talk is, yeah, I'm a nuisance, I'm an irritant. So I'll never speak up if I'm out socially, or whatever it is. So
Mm.
yeah, exactly. And then another leg and the table. So could be quite a seriously traumatic memory as well of a relationship issue where you were in an abusive relationship. So we're going around looking at all these sort of aspects that are holding up the table. So we're collapsing it. So I find that really fascinating because, people often just go, "Can you help me? I've got, I feel terrible all the time, and I just want to feel better." It's like, yes, that's a horrible way to be, but let's look at what's contributing. Another word I like to bring in. What's the evidence of you not feeling good enough? Tell me what's happening throughout your day. Well, they say this happens, I can't go out socially, and these are all the pieces. We don't have to address every one. That's the beauty, isn't it? Because we'll be there forever. But when we
Yes,
address the significant ones, it might be 2 sessions to 10 sessions. We start collapsing everything, and then people like you and I start showing up and going, "I'm not perfect. This podcast may never be perfect, but it's good enough, and we're good enough, and we'll do better
that's
next
right.
time." Yeah.
Yes. And I love you reminded me that like when I've done previous tapping with you, that helped heal me is I discovered a lot of the time it was my perception of things, and you were able to help me shift that.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. And again, that's because we let go of stress, isn't it? And you see things more clearly. That's right. The perception is clear. It's like, I've actually always been good enough. I've not necessarily always been right. And sometimes I've been a bit mean, but I've actually showed up as good as I can be until you learn and you grow and make different choices. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? We could talk
Uh,
all day.
yeah, I think we're definitely gonna have to do a part two because
I'd
like
love to. I'd love to.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
thank you. Because I would love to ask you next time some information behind matrix reprinting.
Yeah, we'll
I
do
know
that next
that's
time. Yeah,
yeah,
that's really
because that
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh that technique was amazing for helping me dig up some resentment I didn't even know I
Yes.
was holding on to. So yeah, but I would just love to hear, Alison, if that's all right. Like if you have any morning routine or daily practices that have really helped you on your journey, just some tips for our listeners.
Yes, I mentioned them before, but I'll just recap and maybe I have something to add. My morning routine used to be, let's say what it was and now what it is. It used to be get up, straight away have a coffee, I'd be out power walking. This is before I became a mum. Do everything really fast. Everything was really
Mm,
fast and everything was multitask. Get as much out of It's like I look back at who I was.
right, me too.
And I didn't realize I was adrenally fatigued. I was just,
Mm,
just on fire. So now my morning routine is I wake up. I don't always, because you know what it's like, but most of the time I wake up and I recognize I'm in my body. I'm
mm,
here. I'm grateful. Gratitude is amazing, isn't it? So grateful for this beautiful life, even though at times it doesn't feel that way. We're going through a great awakening, as we know.
mm,
And I think talking about that, I realize the importance of the morning routine and of any routine and ritual because we are going through a deep change on this planet and we need to ground ourselves. So I get out of bed, I tend to try and recognize that my feet are on the ground, if it's carpet or whatever, I'm really with my body. And I will then have my breakfast and then the next big thing for me as far as my rituals or routine is to get into nature first thing before I do any work, before I, get on my phone and get in touch with people. I go into nature because nature knows we are nature and it just instantly will align you. If you haven't got your phone and you're not chatting away, which sometimes we all do. And then, and I mentioned before again, and I hope that I can finish with this again. It's really, really important to just stop and just close the eyes. You may not have time at work to go and do a long meditation, but if you sat at a desk or if you're with a lot of people, even out socially, I just close my eyes more and more now, and it might be just for 5 seconds where I just breathe like a little baby. And on the out breath, I consciously drop my shoulders, relax my jaw. And I'm finding, Alyssa, that I'm doing this so much more now. Micro moments of stillness, washing up, close my eyes, feel the warmth of the water. My husband's with me, something he's saying is jarring me. Close my eyes, I breathe. and I come back and it is a reboot. I'm there, I'm present, I'm not in the past or the future. So I think that just really sums up they're not even rituals really, it's just bringing myself back into alignment with nature because we're so distracted and we've got so much going on with the technological world, age of Aquarius. We really, really need to find our way, don't we? And it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to pay money for it.
I love that so much. I'm glad you brought up nature again because something that I do every day is grounding and making sure my bare feet touch the ground and the grass. And
Yes.
that's where I will do my bare minimum 5 minutes of Qigong every day and incorporate some tapping in there. And
Yeah.
something I have really learned this year that I love you brought up is taking that moment, that stillness, because I was the same with you. I was a busy mom,
Yeah.
working full time, go, go, go,
Yeah.
trying to do all the things like us moms all try and do. And just, slowing things down, the magic and how simple just tuning into our breath. And yeah, grounding helped me heal postnatal depression and anxiety. That
Oh,
was the
wow.
first thing I did
Wow.
over
Amazing.
10 years ago. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. And thank you for inspiring me to continue with my Qigong. I know it's similar to, sorry, with Tai Chi, similar to Qigong, but
Yes.
a bit different. And I'm actually doing 1 hour classes and it is a 10-week, 8-week course
Ah,
thing. But I like what you just said. You've reminded me that because I was already thinking, I can't do an hour. I'll probably condense it. Even now, I'm just practicing just doing body moves in the morning and at night. That is something I bring in, just moving my body where it wants to go softly. It's simple things, isn't it?
right. That's why I just love like when we learn all these different techniques and we find what works best for us
Yeah,
because we're all unique
yeah,
and not everything's going to work for everyone, but
yeah,
just have a go,
yeah,
see what works for you. And
yeah.
I had the privilege of going to a retreat in Peru about a year ago and learned from a Qigong master. And his challenge for us was to do 100 days of Qigong, even just 5 minutes.
Yes.
And I've been doing it every day for a year. I'm really,
Have
really
you?
blessed. Yeah, thank you.
So
And
amazing.
I've
You
seen
inspired
the
me. I'll do 5 minutes. I'm gonna
thanks.
start doing five
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah,
What
great.
helped me, he said, if you miss one day, it's like missing 10 days. So like, ooh.
Oh, okay.
So
You
that's
feel the
helped me.
benefit. Don't you
I
feel that
do.
every time I close my eyes in stillness or I move my body, which I've only just started to do the Tai Chi, I can't believe how much calmer I feel. Yes, tapping is also great, but this
Mm,
I like to move the body. Just gently letting it go where it wants to go for somebody who is just fast, fast, fast.
mm.
Just exploring where does my body want to go? And yeah, it might be a bit of Tai Chi, but it might just be me just doing, it's honoring the practices, but sometimes just moving in your own way.
Well,
Yeah.
that's they say that Tai Chi and Qigong are a type of moving meditation. So anyone
Yeah.
out there who think they're not great at meditation or don't like it, try moving meditation. Who knows? It might
Yeah.
and tapping. I find almost tapping is a
Yeah.
moving meditation in a way because,
Yeah.
like you said, sometimes when I'm driving and feeling
Yeah.
stressed and I don't have the time to pull over, I'll do tapping in my head where I
Yeah. Imagine it.
visualize.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
And
powerful.
it is because it's the neural pathways instantly go, well, I know what we're doing now, and you don't even have to physically tap. That's the next level. And I do sometimes do the same. I'm like imagining that I'm just tapping on these points. And then we get to the point where we don't even have to do that. We can just take that moment to just be and feel a lot better.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time today, Alison. And I feel we will have a part two, especially once I have my accreditation. Because
Yeah, let's aim for that. That's a good goal.
okay, that'd
Yeah.
be great. Okay. Yeah, thank you. And is there any last tidbit of wisdom or anything you'd like to share with our listeners who maybe for this is the first time they've ever heard about tapping?
Yeah. Thank you. Well, firstly, thank you so much. I knew it was going to be lovely today. I really did. And it's been a really lovely conversation. I hope all your viewers enjoy it too. Um, I think it comes back to my final message is whatever's in the way of you recognizing you as an absolute precious jewel, find your way to come back to yourself. And it may be tapping to work with some of the trauma around that or the beliefs. It might be that and the other things we've talked about. But we're living in a time now where we're all so powerful, but we've actually been told we're not. So we're unraveling that now, and we're relearning. So please recognize if you are feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough, I couldn't do a podcast. You can. You've just been told you can't, and that story's old now. So that's my message: is you are pure love. We are all pure love, and we're just remembering that now, and it's so exciting.
Oh my God, Alison, I have goosebumps. Like
Oh,
that was so beautiful. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and
me too.
I can't wait to do part two with
Yeah,
you. So
yes.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much.
much.
And I'll see you soon. Look forward to your new case studies coming in for your accreditation.
Yes, me too.
Thank you very
Thank
much for
you,
having
Al.
me. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Big shout out to Bellevue Studios. Thank you so much for recording on this land.